You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter @RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am the Jacob Valk, and you're not. You know what I'm going to start with, the Field of Dreams game. Before I get into ripping the Yankees, I have to talk about how great of a viewing experience that game was. You've got the players coming out of the cornfield. You've got Kevin Costner coming out of the cornfield. He threw out the first pitch. The aerial shots that Fox had was nothing short of breathtaking. The aesthetic of players like Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Tim Anderson, etc., all hitting home runs into a cornfield was spectacular. You now have people wanting Major League Baseball to do this for other movies. A League of Their Own was mentioned. The Sandlot was mentioned. I don't know how you would do it. The thing with A League of Their Own is it's all about women playing baseball. So how do you incorporate that into a Major League Baseball game? What are you going to do? Have a Major League team wear Rockford Peaches uniforms? I don't see that working. But I love A League of Their Own. Great movie. The Sandlot. Again, I'm just not sure how you would do it. The field isn't big enough, it's all dirt. I'm not sure how conducive that is to a Major League Baseball adaptation. Also, I'll say this. Do you really wanna overdo these special games based off of Hollywood movies? The more of those we see, the less special it'll become. Now, it's a good thing that Major League Baseball is coming back to Dyersville next year. Okay, they put a lot of money into that setup. You don't want it to be a one-off. This isn't the Olympics. I'm okay with this being a once-a-year thing. Other movies, though, I'm not sure how conducive it is. Field of Dreams was just perfect because you had this vacant land. All it was being used for was to grow corn. And not even human-grade corn. Corn for cows. Feed corn. Which I didn't even know was a thing. The stars just aligned perfectly for this. Then the coronavirus happened, but give Major League Baseball credit for sticking with it. They put on a show last night. It was great. It was fantastic. It was must-see TV. And what made it even better was the great finish. If I'm looking at it from a baseball perspective, not a Yankees perspective, that was an incredible finish. The Yankees are down 7-4, entering the top of the ninth. The White Sox have their all-star closer, Liam Hendricks, on the mound, ready to shut the door and send everyone home. But the Yankees rally. Aaron Judge hits a 2-run home run. Giancarlo Stanton hits a 2-run home run. All of a sudden, the Yankees have a 1-run lead. I'm going nuts at this point. I mean, something in my gut told me to pick the Yankees. Granted, I looked like an idiot through most of the game. Freaking Andrew Heaney gives up 8 home runs in his first 3 games with the Yankees. He gave up 3 yesterday. Those 8 home runs given up in his first 3 games with the Yankees is tied for the most ever. He's tied with Jeff Weaver. Weaver did it in 2002. If you've listened to this show for a long time, you know how much I hate Jeff Weaver. To be mentioned in the same breath as Jeff Weaver is one of the most insulting things that could ever happen to you, unless your name is Ted Lilly, because Lilly was traded for Weaver. And I like Ted Lilly. Always liked him. I remember killing that trade at the time. I was 5 years old. I didn't get it. I was proven right. A 5-year-old knew more than Brian Cashman. But you know what? Judge and Stanton made me look really smart for picking the Yankees. They had 7 RBIs. They combined for 3 home runs. Great. Fantastic. In a marquee game, a must-win game, a nationally televised game, with the entire baseball world watching. You want your big guns showing up. If Joey Gallo is just going to get on base via a walk, which is why the analytics community loves him so much, let Judge and Stanton carry the offense. I'll get into Gallo a little later, because there's a lot I want to say about the Yankees. But the Yankees entered the bottom of the ninth with a 1-run lead. Zach Britton comes in. Let me tell you something about Zach Britton. Since coming back on June 12th, he has been garbage. He coughed up the game against the Royals on Monday. That was his second blown save. Entering that game yesterday, Britton had a 5.28 ERA. That 5.28 ERA is the worst ERA on the Yankees out of any of their active pitchers, with the exception of Brooks Kriske, who is absolutely useless, Andrew Heaney, who I'll get into in a minute, and Nick Nelson, who's absolutely useless. Instead of bringing in Jonathan Loaisiga, a guy who has been lights out all year, only threw 1 more pitch than Britton on Wednesday, the Yankees go to the lefty. The White Sox kill left-handed pitching. Why are you going to Britton? Why are you going to one of your worst relievers? Zach Britton is useless. Chad Green has struggled in big spots. The only guy who should be closing games is Loaisiga. Britton got the first out, but then when he walked Sebi Zavala, freaking Sebi Zavala, the backup catcher. Let me tell you, as soon as he walked Zavala, you had a sense that this wasn't going to end well for the Yankees. Tim Anderson hits the walk-off home run. That's it. Game over. White Sox win. Freaking Zach Britton. The first pitch that he throws to Anderson. Forget about it. This one's gone. It's a home run. White Sox win. Yay. Makes me sick. Nothing against the White Sox. I don't hate the White Sox. But to see the Yankees lose that way, things went flying in my house. And to make matters worse, the remote went flying. So I couldn't even turn the game off right away. I had to see replay after replay after replay of this stupid home run. I mean, it's a great moment. It's an iconic moment. The White Sox don't have a good history, so that's going to be played on repeat for a long time on the south side of Chicago. But as a Yankees fan, it made me want to pull my hair out. And to make matters worse, the Red Sox lost. So the Yankees had an opportunity to get within a game of the second wild card. They blew it. A golden chance to get within one game of the playoffs. And you throw it up. I'm done. I can't take it anymore. In the past, I've said that firing Aaron Boone wouldn't make a difference. The team wouldn't be any better. No, it would. Look at all these really talented players that are underachieving. You know what Joey Gallo's done since coming to the Yankees? In 14 games, he only has 7 hits. He's hitting 140. Yeah, he's walking a lot, but is that what the Yankees want? No! They wanted a lefty that could pull the ball over the short porch in right field. Not someone who's going to walk a lot. It makes no sense. The ball's a millimeter outside the strike zone. Swing at it. Gallo has never been a great average hitter, but he's better than 140. Andrew Heaney, a decent pitcher. Not great, not terrible, but with the Yankees, he looks like the second coming of Esteban Loaiza. And I'm not talking White Sox Loaiza. I'm talking Yankees Loaiza. Zach Britton, a 2-time All-Star, a former lockdown closer, has blown 3 saves for the Yankees this year in 2 months. These good players are underachieving. At the end of the day, that's on the manager. Aaron Boone needs to go. If the Yankees are going to make the playoffs, and somehow, some way, they're still in position to make the playoffs, you got to get a better manager. You improved at first base. You improved in the outfield. Improve in the dugout. Fire Aaron Boone. What he's doing isn't working. These are good players that are struggling. LeMahieu's taken a little bit of a step back. Torres has taken a step back. There's some at-bats where Stanton looks clueless. Luke Voit, when he's been healthy, hasn't been great. Britton, useless. Heaney, useless. Justin Wilson was useless. These are good players that aren't playing up to their standards. That falls on the manager. If it's one or two guys here and there, okay. That happens. That's baseball. I just named like 7. That's more than a quarter of the team. I don't want to hear that Torres is bad and the Yankees should move on from him. I don't want to hear that Voigt's bad. I don't want to hear that Heaney's bad. I don't want to hear that Britton's bad. Unless you finish the thought. It's not enough to say that they're bad. Yeah. In other news, water is wet. But why are they bad? Why are they struggling? Why are the Yankees out of the playoffs right now? It's because the manager is bad at his job. There's no nicer way to say it. He's inept. He's clueless. The job of the manager, nay, the job of the head coach in any sport, is to get the most out of his players and then some. Have your players play up to their potential and then exceed it. That's how you win. That's what Gabe Kapler's doing for the Giants. That's what Monty Williams did for the Suns. That's what Dominique Ducharme did for the Canadiens. That's what Nate McMillan did for the Hawks. That's what Barry Trotz has done for the Islanders. He gets the most out of his players and then some. Aaron Boone isn't doing that. You cannot tell me that this is the best the Yankees can be. 2 games out of a playoff spot. I don't care that they're 11 games over 500. That means nothing to me. What matters is making the playoffs. In the 1980s, the Yankees had many seasons where they were over 500. But from 1981 to 1995, they didn't make the playoffs. Were those good seasons? Finishing with winning records? Finishing with 90 wins but not making the playoffs? No! It's all about the playoffs. And it's clear that the Yankees will not get there with Aaron Boone as manager. I don't want to hear all the reinforcements that the Yankees have coming. You have no idea what Kluber's going to do when he comes back. You have no idea what Severino's going to do when he comes back. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Guys like Chapman, Sanchez, Torres, Urshela, etc., etc., etc. are all question marks. You know what would make me feel better? If they had a manager that had them playing at their fullest. For a long time, I said that changing managers wouldn't change anything. Because the issues that the Yankees had were too great. Now they're really not. Okay, Brian Cashman did a great job of shoring up this team. On paper, this team has what it takes to do something special. But they need a manager that can get them from on paper great to in real life great. Boone is not that. If you're still unconvinced, think of it this way. Let's go year by year. Aaron Boone has been manager of the Yankees since 2018. In 2018, the Yankees beat the Athletics in the wild card game at Yankee Stadium. I was there. but then they lost to the Red Sox in 4 games in the ALDS. That team didn't achieve anything extra. Everyone outside of Oakland expected the Yankees to win that game. 2019, the Yankees swept the Twins in the ALDS, but then they lost to the Astros in 6 games in the ALCS. The Yankees always destroy the Twins in the playoffs. That's just a given that the Yankees are going to win. The real test was the Astros. And Boone and the Yankees failed. Last year, the Yankees swept the Indians in the wild card series. No one thought the Indians were world beaters that year, plus it was a 60-game sample size. So the fact that the Indians had a better record than the Yankees doesn't mean anything to me. And then the Yankees lost to the Rays in the ALDS. Every year that Aaron Boone has been manager, he has been eliminated in the second round that the Yankees have been in. If they're a wild card team, they're going to be eliminated in the ALDS. If they win the division, they're going to be eliminated in the ALCS. That's what Aaron Boone does. He can get you to the playoffs some years, but you're not going to win anything once you get there. This guy should be gone. George would have fired him right after the game. You lose a game like that on national television, the entire baseball world watching, George would have fired you the second that Anderson home run landed. Actually, he would have fired Boone long before yesterday, but I digress. Boone needs to go. I'm okay with Cashman finishing out the year. You owe him that. Let's see if Carlos Mendoza can whip these guys into shape. Maybe they'll call up the AAA manager, Doug Davis. I have no idea, but you gotta try something. It's time to fire Boone. Alright, now I'll give you some NFL Vault talk. And I will talk about the 2 preseason games that happened yesterday. Steelers-Eagles and Washington-New England. You may be asking yourself, why am I talking about this? Because it's August 13th. It is Friday the 13th. I hope you don't have triskaidekaphobia. But there's nothing else on. Nothing else to talk about. The only baseball story is the Field of Dreams game. There's no earth-shattering hockey. There's no earth-shattering basketball. And I'll say this, I like watching preseason football. I like watching these guys play, who are living their dream. They may never make it in a regular season game, but you know what? They're living their dream. For at least one night, they can wear an NFL uniform. That does mean something. I mean, I'll tell you, tonight, the Yankees are off, so I'm probably going to watch Bills-Lions, and then Cowboys-Cardinals. Maybe I'll watch an old movie. I don't know. Maybe I'll watch Field of Dreams. But I do want to get into Steelers-Eagles. The Steelers are now 2-0 in the preseason. They beat the Cowboys 16-3 in the Hall of Fame game. And they beat the Eagles 24-16 yesterday. Ben Roethlisberger didn't play, but that's okay. There are some guys who don't need to play in the preseason. Roethlisberger's one of them. If you're a veteran and you've been with a team for a really long time, I'm okay with you sitting out the preseason. I'd like you to still be there and watch, but You don't need to actually play in the game. What made my heart happy was seeing Dwayne Haskins play really, really well. Haskins completed 16 of his 22 passes for 161 yards and a touchdown. The touchdown pass to Anthony Johnson, in all fairness, wasn't, an incredible throw or anything. The Eagles just broke down in zone coverage. It was probably the easiest touchdown throw Dwayne Haskins will ever have. Let me tell you, I'm not giving up on Haskins. I said this when Haskins signed with the Steelers. That was a perfect landing spot. He gets the chance to learn from Big Ben, to learn from Mike Tomlin. He can take some time to reset himself. And then when Roethlisberger calls it quits, I'm okay with Haskins being the next quarterback of the Steelers. In some cases, reality hitting you in the face is what gets players to play to their full potential. Reality hit Haskins hard. He was dreadful with Washington. He didn't even make it through last season. So wait a minute, if I want to continue playing in the NFL, this is my last chance. I mean, you've got to realize something. Haskins is young. He's 24. He started just 13 games in the NFL. That's not even a full season. I'm not giving up on Haskins. I wouldn't bet the rent on him being great, but I'll tell you, I'd have no problem with him taking over for Roethlisberger when the time comes. I have more faith in him than I do Mason Rudolph, let me tell you. Other than Haskins, the offensive line really stood out to me. Kevin Dodson was fantastic. Dan Moore Jr. was great. B.J. Finney was really good. J.C. Hassenauer, Chaz Green, Joe Haig, Kendrick Green, Malcolm Pridgeon. The Steelers' offensive line last year wasn't anything to brag about. Alejandro Villanueva was really the only great offensive lineman that the Steelers had. And they let him go to Baltimore, their division rivals. That offensive line is a big question mark, but they looked really, really good yesterday. You gotta give them credit. Defensively, I didn't think the Steelers were great. I understand that they limited the Eagles to just 16 points, but the Eagles aren't a good team offensively. Justin Lane, Isaiah Loudermilk, and Chris Wormley looked really good. But other than those guys, no one really knocked my socks off defensively for the Steelers. As for the Eagles, they're in trouble. I know that you shouldn't overreact to one preseason game, but it's hard not to when Jalen Hurts plays like that. Completes just 3 of his 7 passes. The yards look good. 54 yards on 3 completions. That's 18 yards a completion, but realize 34 of those yards came off a great Dallas Goedert catch and run. Hurts did not impress me whatsoever. The Eagles' running game didn't impress me whatsoever. Joe Flacco looked really good. Quez Watkins looked good. Tyree Jackson, a converted quarterback. Someone who Madden once had rated ahead of Daniel Jones at quarterback, played really, really well. Jalen Reagor looked good. The Eagles do have some exciting pass catchers. Watkins, Goddard, Jackson, Ertz, Reagor. But they're going to be limited because of their ineffective quarterback, Jalen Hurts. There will come a time when he is benched for Joe Flacco. I promise you. Defensively for the Eagles, Elijah Riley played really well. Alex Singleton played really well. Milton Williams, Joe Ostman, Lavert Hill, Andrew Adams, and Patrick Johnson all looked really good. If the Eagles can shore up their communication in zone coverage, their defense will be good, but they'll be limited by their terrible offense. The Eagles are going to blow things up next year. I promise you. Alright, let's get now to Washington versus the Patriots. What caught my eye was the not earth-shattering quarterback play from Ryan Fitzpatrick and Taylor Heinicke. Fitzpatrick started, went just 5 of 8 for 58 yards. Heinicke went 9 for 15 for 86 yards. I'll say this, Taylor Heinicke did lead a touchdown drive for Washington right before halftime. That gave Washington a 7-6 lead at the half. That was impressive. I think everyone would like Heinicke to be the starter. You know what you're going to get from Fitzpatrick. You're going to get decent quarterback play. Nothing great. Just decent. Heinicke, you really don't know. The only extended look that we got from him was in the playoffs last year, where he almost beat the Buccaneers. He threw for over 300 yards. He was responsible for 2 touchdowns. Heinicke kept Washington in that game. You'd like to see him get a chance and to show what he can do. If he folds, okay, you have Fitzpatrick. But I'd like to see Heinicke get the start in week 1. The best player for Washington yesterday was Jarrett Patterson. He was absolutely electric. He had 10 carries for 40 yards. He also had 4 catches for 30 yards. I understand that it was the preseason, but it's still impressive to be your team's leading rusher and receiver. That takes a lot of skill. The offensive line for Washington looked solid. Samuel Cosme, David Steinmetz, Wes Schweitzer, and Brandon Sheriff all stood out to me. Defensively, how can you not be impressed by Chase Young? The guy's going to be a stud. He's the second coming of Dave Butts. How's that for a name out of the past? Dave Butts. And Charles Mann, too. Butts and Mann played together for a little bit. If you don't know who those 2 guys are, look them up. Young is going to be great. There's no question about that. Okay. Now let's get to the Patriots. Everyone wanted to see what Mac Jones would do. You knew he wouldn't start. Cam Newton started. Didn't look great. Went just 4 of 7 for 49 yards. Then Jones came in and everyone was fascinated. I gotta say, he didn't wow me. Went just 13 of 19 for 87 yards. What am I supposed to do with that? Oh, hallelujah, he was connecting with Christian Wilkerson. Fantastic. That's the next Brady to Edelman. I really wasn't overly impressed with Jones. I'm not casting judgment on him. I'm not writing him off. But I wanted to see more from Jones. I was disappointed. The guy who really impressed me was Ramandre Stevenson. He had 10 carries for 127 yards and 2 touchdowns. One of those runs was a 91-yarder with just over a minute left in the game that iced the game for the Patriots. The Patriots don't have a good running game. I'm not a Sonny Michel fan. I'm not a Damian Harris fan. James White is a good pass-catching back. That's about it. Same thing with J.J. Taylor. It wouldn't surprise me if Stevenson made the Patriots' 53-man roster. It wouldn't surprise me if he played really well for the Patriots. The Patriots do this. They develop these running backs that no one's ever heard of into solid players. Maybe not Emmitt Smith, but they hold their own. Remember Lawrence Maroney? Stevan Ridley? LeGarrette Blount? Dion Lewis? Stevenson could follow in their footsteps very easily. The new Patriots looked really good. Matthew Judon played well in limited time. Trent Brown played well. I liked what I saw from Jonnu Smith. Kendrick Bourne was solid. Depending on the quarterback play, the Patriots could be a wildcard team next year. It's all on Newton and Jones. It's just that simple. Moving on now to the Jaguars, trading Joe Schobert to the Steelers, presumably for a late-round draft pick. And this is a good move for the Steelers. Go back to yesterday's game. None of the middle linebackers were really impressive. Buddy Johnson isn't anything special. Ulysses Gilbert wasn't that good. Devin Bush looked terrible. The Steelers needed an inside linebacker ever since Vince Williams retired a few weeks ago. That was a very surprising retirement. Give the Steelers credit for giving it a go in the preseason, in the Hall of Fame game, and week 1 of the preseason, to try to see if any middle linebacker would jump out, but no one did, so you trade for one. And Schobert is a decent linebacker. He's had success in the past. Granted, he's fallen off the past couple years. According to Pro Football Focus, last year he had a 54.2 overall grade. But he played every snap last year for the Jaguars. He's always been extremely durable. even with the Browns, there was a time when this guy was regarded as one of the better young linebackers in the NFL. Granted, he hasn't turned into anything special, but he'll hold his own in Pittsburgh. The move makes a ton of sense for both teams. Schobert didn't fit the Jaguars' age range. The Steelers needed a middle linebacker. I'm going to assume that this truly is for a late round draft pick. This is an even trade. Alright, now I'll give you some NBA Valk talk. And I'll start with the Bucks bringing back the Thanasis Antetokounmpo on a 2-year deal. I wonder why the Bucks brought him back. I mean, he didn't set the world on fire when he played. Brought energy, but that's about it. That last name, though, Antetokounmpo, that sounds really familiar to me. Let me go on Basketball Reference. See if Thanasis has any relatives in the NBA. Oh yeah, that's right, Giannis! Giannis plays for the Bucks. Oh, it all makes sense now. Yeah, that's why the Bucks brought Thanasis back. To keep his brother happy. Actually, here's something a little interesting. Thanasis is the older brother. Of the 3 Antetokounmpo brothers in the NBA, Thanasis is the oldest, Giannis is the middle child, and Kostas is the youngest. Usually the middle child gets no attention. Not in the Antetokounmpo's case. It's easy to see where all the talent in that family went. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the Bucks made a play for Kostas Antetokounmpo. He's currently playing in France, but would it really stun you if the Bucks brought him over? I don't mind this move, in all seriousness. You've got to keep Giannis happy. So sure, bring in his brother. Let him take up one of the last spots on the bench. He comes in like the final seconds of every quarter to give a little energy, to try to make stuff happen. Sometimes it works. In all seriousness, you can't knock this move. It makes sense. I do want to talk about a couple moves that my beloved Brooklyn Nets made. They hired Steve Clifford as a coaching consultant and Kyle Korver as a player development coach. How's that for serendipity? Kyle Korver, 18 years after being sold for a copy machine, a new parking lot, and a summer league team, is now a player development coach for the Nets. You gotta love it. And speaking of serendipity, people got on me for not mentioning the extension that Dennis Schroeder turned down from the Lakers when I was talking about him signing with the Celtics. Yeah, that's a terrible look. According to Brian Windhorst of ESPN, and this came out in late March, the Lakers did offer Schroeder a 4-year extension worth $84 million. Schroeder turned it down. He bet on himself, and he lost. Yeah, that's a bad look for Schroeder. But there's nothing wrong with betting on yourself again. Would he be better off if he had signed that extension with the Lakers? The answer is yes. He'd have a much better chance at a title, but at the end of the day, the die was cast. It was a stupid decision to turn down that extension, and Schroeder should have fired his agent, but I have no problem with Schroeder betting on himself again, and maybe he finally gets a big boy contract. But back to the Nets, it's impossible to not like these hires. Kyle Korver is one of the best shooters in NBA history. He has a career 42.9 three-point percentage. That puts him 10th all-time in NBA history. He's ahead of guys like Steve Nash, Ray Allen, and Reggie Miller. You gotta think that Korver's gonna help Joe Harris, maybe Bruce Brown, Cam Thomas, maybe Javon Carter, maybe Patty Mills. If I was him, I would just focus on three-point shooting. That's it. Improve these guys' three-point shooting. And make it so Joe Harris won't go cold in the playoffs. As for hiring Clifford, that makes sense. Clifford actually was an assistant coach for the Lakers when Steve Nash was there. In the 12-13 season, they crossed paths. Now, God only knows what a coaching consultant does, but I'll say this. After losing Mike D'Antoni and Ime Udoka, the Nets did a good job in replacing them. Realize, they brought in David Vanterpool. They still have Jacques Vaughn. They still have Amari Stoudemire. They still have Royal Ivy. They still have Tiago Splitter, etc., etc. Now you're adding Clifford and Korver to that mix? That's a really good coaching staff. I mean, if the Nets struggle early on, there are no shortage of guys that the Nets can turn to on their bench and say, congratulations, you're the interim coach. I hope it would be Vanterpool. Vaughn has been a head coach. It didn't work out. Clifford's been a head coach. It hasn't worked out. Vanterpool has a ton of experience, and he's never been a head coach. I hope he'd get the first crack at it. I'll close this show out with some NHL Valk talk. Specifically, the Panthers signing Joe Thornton to a one-year deal worth the league minimum, $750,000. That is absolutely insane. This is one of the steals of the offseason. It doesn't get much better than Joe Thornton as your third-line center, a former MVP in this league. Someone who, even though he's 42, is still a really good two-way player. He's very good defensively, and he had 20 points in 44 games last year for the Maple Leafs. I mean, yeah, his time with the Leafs didn't end well. He started out on their top line, then he moved to the third line, then he was barely playing at all, but Thornton can still get the job done. Plus, the veteran presence that he's going to bring to that Panthers team is absolutely invaluable. Yes, they already have guys like Patrick Hornquist and Sergei Bobrovsky and Zach Dalby, but Thornton is a million times better. He has more veteran experience than those guys. This is a home run by the Panthers. New York Yankees show comes your way Monday night. I'm not going to do any special shows on the Jets preseason games. I will do a Jets season preview and an NFL preview, but you still have a little bit of a wait for that. Regular episodes of the Jacob Valk Show come your way every weekday afternoon. Until next time, I'm Jacob Valk, and always remember, if you disagree with me, you're wrong.